Well, thank you everybody for joining us this evening. And we're talking to two of our students on our PGCert course, which is run by Helen. And we have Kate and Grainne with us. So thank you for joining us. We're going to start with just the first question. Kay, what attracted you to the ESTA PGCert course? And what would you say to prospective students who are watching this interview and maybe considering the course for
Right.
themselves?
What attracted me to a PG Cert course? Well, I don't know if you're aware of this, Andrew, but I actually had rather a big part to play in it, in
Hmm,
getting it off the ground.
fabulous.
Mm. So I was involved really at the very, very beginning of it and sort of pulled back at the point in terms of my involvement when the course was about to be written and mentors were being um, interviewed, really because of my family commitments. And so I was very privileged to attend the first graduation ceremony with the first students and see that, and that was really wonderful. What I suppose attracted me when I got the email through, which said that on top of a PG cert, you could do an MA year. I found the prospect of that really quite intriguing. And I think at the time, I was looking for some means of trying to regain my focus and particularly my passion for teaching.
Hmm,
It's a bit of a personal thing, but I went through an awful lot of bereavement during the pandemic, including my lovely husband. And my concentration and my passion just was shot to pieces. And so I saw this as a means of trying to harness what I had lost back. And that certainly has worked. There's
hmm.
been absolutely no doubt that I've got my fire back in my belly and the enthusiasm that I once had, back, which is wonderful. I think, when I was considering it, it was all sort of decided in a day. I had the email. My first thoughts were, I'm too old, you know. And then the second one was a sense, and I'm ashamed to say, but I'll be honest, I was feeling a little pride, thinking, oh, I'm quite long in the tooth. I've got a lot of years of teaching under my belt. Can this really teach me anything new? And I found myself challenged by that thought. And when I discussed it with my son and with my father, they were enthusiastic that I should look into it. And so I phoned Helen and Laura and one of the other mentors to just discuss it with them. So, in terms of saying if you're thinking about it, I think most people would think, am I too experienced? Have I got, too many years? I probably know it all anyway. Um, I've really welcomed the chance to dig deeper, to reflect on what I do, and to use the opportunity to find out things that I didn't know. And that's really been fantastic. Sorry, that's a long answer.
No, it's
No,
a really
that's
inspiring answer.
it
Yeah.
is. It's a great answer. And I
Yeah.
think there'll be a lot of people exactly like you thinking, I'm a really experienced teacher, I'm up and running. Is this for me? And I think you've proven that there's always new things to learn.
Oh, goodness, yes. Yes, absolutely.
And
In
what
fact,
I what seems exciting about this group, though, I mean, having met you briefly in the summer, Grainne, I believe you're at the beginning of your
Yeah.
teaching career. And so I think this is really wonderful that we've got really experienced teachers and your teachers working
Mm.
together in this kind of community of practice, really drawing on each other. So, I mean, how does it feel for you as maybe this first formal exploration into teaching?
Yeah, well, that's the thing, because my background, I suppose, wouldn't be in actually music in terms of like a college aspect. I kind of did nutrition, and it was one of the things that when I discovered I moved to Portugal and I was teaching over there for a bit, and I realized I was like, oh my God, I actually love this so much, because I had all the kind of the music experience from playing and a little bit of teaching on the side, but I never really invested it to a degree where it was my job during the time. So what I found was I actually loved it so much. So I was like, okay, when I remember looking up the idea of like, okay, how could I really kind of get something that would be both really enhance both my music knowledge and the aspect of music teaching? Because I definitely felt, obviously being kind of younger, not having like, you know, a music kind of such on a degree level, I felt a little bit of imposter syndrome as I was teaching, and I needed something that kind of would enhance my own kind of confidence in teaching and everything. And I was like, when I found this course, I couldn't believe it. I was like, this is hardly like real. Like, it had everything I wanted to, which was like the aspect of both being able to teach and do it online. You know, it was very much orientated towards the aspect of teaching and music, so it wasn't just one or the other, which was amazing. So it's been so cool to have kind of like the group with both myself and younger teachers, as well as everybody else who's like super experienced. And overall, like, as in, it's completely transformed my teaching, like completely. I mean, even if the fact that I've only started out, I'm so glad I'm doing this now, so that I'm not going in with any like fixed mindsets and going forward with that kind of thing. And yeah, it's actually, it's been so amazing.
That's
Great,
fantastic.
thank you. Yeah, we've definitely picked the right people, Andrew, for these
Yeah, this is
questions.
brilliant.
And we didn't know you were going to say that, so thank you.
Yeah, very exciting. Good.
Shall we move on to the next question? Shall we do that
Yeah,
now?
why not? Why not?
Okay, so you're
Yeah.
both very busy. How have you found balancing the work, your own work and your own teaching, and the demands of the course?
Do you want to go, Grainne?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've actually found it really, really good in terms of balance, because at the moment, especially when I'm setting myself up as a teacher, you know, I would take on quite a good few hours, and the fact that I'm like kind of younger as well, I'm able to like handle it. But the aspect, I suppose, of doing a college course and working full time in general is tough, right? But the thing is, with the fact how the webinars are orientated, how, you know, they're very concise, but they get everything across. So it's not like you've reams and reams of videos to watch or that kind of stuff. So in terms of content wise to view, it's really accessible. It's great. And then, as well as that, I feel like the assignments are really nicely spaced out. You know, they're not too overbearing. And what's really nice, I find, actually, are the little tasks that go with each webinar. So there's not an intense amount of pressure to have those tasks done within like a week or 2 weeks. It's kind of in your own time to do them, and actually that makes a massive difference. And when you see other people post to the like forum or post these little tasks, inspires you to do it, you know. So I've definitely found the balance to be like absolutely spot on. And especially with the fact that like what I love to do would sometimes to be either go to a coffee shop or do something like that, watch the video, and then I'd go teach in the evening. And then I might come back and do a bit of reading. And it just is really kind of, even if it's only like half an hour like a day, you can still get something like done, whether it be the reading, the even a task, because it doesn't take too long, but it's still, you know, because of the fact you have to think in a certain way, and it's a lot about the teaching, everything just kind of goes hand in hand. So you could actually do a task, and you could actually, you know, or even do some part of an assignment that you might actually implement that day in your own teaching, which I find really nice. So it all kind of works very, very well together. It's not like it's separate to the work or your.
Speaking for myself, I'm a bit of a morning girl, so I know the mornings are a really good time for me to study. That's when I'm most alert, and I haven't found it a problem, because I know that's the best time for me. That's when I'm most awake, and I can get some good work done. And I think it's helped me to plan what I'm going to do, just to have a notepad to plan what I'm going to be looking at or focusing on for that day. And then I use a bit of something like the Pomodoro technique you might have heard of. Um, I remember my husband telling me that when he was an open university student, it was suggested to him that he should study for 15 minutes, have a break for 5, and then carry on after 15 minutes, and then have a break every hour for 15 minutes, just so that you use the time well and you're really, focused. And I found that has worked really, really well for me. And so it's not necessarily quantity, it's the quality in the time that you allow yourself. That really counts. And with careful planning, I think you can manage it.
Great, really good. One question
That's really great. What's coming across is this story, Helen. Go on.
Okay, go
I
on.
think you just froze and I started chatting. So no, after you.
I was just going to say, can either of you say anything about how you felt writing an essay? Now, Grainne, I know probably having just graduated, writing an essay is just like, oh, it's just something that you're really familiar with. But Kay, I would imagine you're in a more familiar position, and that's, a lot of teachers are now returning to, returning to school, as it were, and it's daunting, the prospect of writing a formal academic essay. So how
Yeah,
did you,
you
what's
know,
the experience like?
I was so impressed with the online um, forums and videos that Chichester University provide on academic writing and all the study skills. And I spent some time right at the beginning of the course looking through those, and some of them are interactive. That was really, really helpful. And the other person who has been brilliant, of course, has been my mentor, Laura, who, she'll tell me exactly what I need to say or not to say. And you pick it up as you go along. So actually, I've really appreciated the online advice, particularly thinking back to when I did my PGCE many years ago. I remember presenting my final dissertation and being told that the language needs to be more academic, but nobody bothered to tell me what academic language was. you know, and it might have been because I was on a more practically based college at a conservatoire rather than at a university, so I wasn't used to that kind of thing. But yeah, you do get the support, and it's been second to none. So I've not had a struggle with it, and yeah,
Great.
that's pretty much
Yeah, no, that's great. Thanks. Thanks
it.
for saying that.
Great.
Okay.
Yeah, very helpful. I think it's great, isn't it, the way that this kind of asynchronous thing can kind of feel real, but also gives you the flexibility, so you don't have to kind of gather online at a certain time for a Zoom call, other than I guess this. But it's great that there's this option to engage with something that feels very kind of active and real world, but is also has that flexibility. You can do it in the morning, or you can do it in your coffee shop time, Grainne, or whatever. It's
Yeah.
really like that's one of the real strengths, I think, of this kind of format. That's awesome. Okay, so next one. Question 3. We'll start with Grainne, please. Can you describe the classes and mentor sessions for us, and what have you found most impactful about these?
Yeah, so I think they're actually really, really helpful. Again, it provides like the a slight kind of like formative kind of a meeting that you'd have. And it's really nice because it's kind of people who are very, very similar to you in terms of the fact that like it's grouped generally by instrument. So there's 2 other piano players with me, and one of them is like, again, a kind of younger teacher as well. And it's a really kind of nice kind of time. Again, it's very concise to the hour, and we have certain questions and certain tasks to talk about. So it's really productive, I find, actually. Going into it, you'd kind of discuss like how your essays are going. We'd kind of bounce off one another. We'd give each other different ideas. It's also a chance to kind of get to know the class a little bit as well. And it's it's really nice to kind of just have that kind of chat now and again. The only issue we had really was the time zones,
Yeah.
because there's loads of people from around the world in the course as well, which is a really cool thing too. And one of the reasons I also wanted to join was to get that kind of concept of meeting other people in the same kind of boat. So we've one girl from Canada, myself from Ireland, and then Hong Kong as well, and our teacher. So to find the time to work was difficult, but we managed it. Which is a pretty cool thing to have managed. So all the meetings are great. I find them really, really good. They're discussing everything. And it's really nice to get also the aspect of talking about like, there's always a formative assignment and then there's like the summative. And the formative one isn't graded, but it's often discussed with you and your mentor by email generally, and then in the meetings as well. And what I find is like it kind of guides you a little bit as to where to go, without having the pressure of it being graded. And that is discussed in those mentor meetings. And I've actually found that quite impactful, actually, because in college, the previous degree I did, everything was very serious. There's no aspect of almost like a trial run before you did an assignment, whereas that is almost like the trial run aspect. And even with that, it's still brilliant, because again, any formative, anything I've done, I've just basically used in my teaching straight away. And again, those mentor meetings really just help further those kind of assignments and those discussions. So they're really cool. I love them.
Great.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that, Kay?
Well, I haven't had so much in terms of meetings with other. Oops, excuse me. Just get rid of that call. I've not had many meetings with other string teacher players, students, should I say, at the moment. I think I had one, but most of my meetings are with Laura, my mentor, and we're both cellist, so we're really, obviously focused very much on, cello teaching. It's been a wonderful education, for me. I mean, in terms of her knowledge and her breadth of knowledge and her understanding of what's out there in terms of academic literature, and it seems she has an encyclopedic knowledge of just the right article you need. I'm going to ping you an article around which you're going to find very useful, and she sends me loads of reading material, and I'm just in awe of her, really, how good she is. She's a brilliant mentor, absolutely excellent. And I really enjoy those times because I learn so much. And we just have also a very colleague-like discussion. It's very, you say, we feels, a very comfortable relationship. It's an extremely comfortable relationship, and very beneficial for me, I think.
Mhm.
That's
I think
fantastic.
so often teachers feel very isolated, popping into a school, not really seeing or talking to anyone. And then when you have your own private practice, of course, you see families and students, but it's actually not that often, apart from perhaps at conferences, or unless you're in some kind of teaching team, that you do get to chat with other teachers. And guess what? You have so much in common. It's so nice, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's just feels quite luxurious, doesn't it, to have other teachers, especially of your own instrument specialism, on
Oh,
tap.
yeah. Oh, yes, absolutely. And some of the reflecting, has been on the way we were both taught. And I realized, getting to know Laura even better, I've known her actually for quite a long time, but getting to know her even better, I realized that actually our backgrounds are not that dissimilar in some ways, which is really interesting. Mm.
Great. I think there's lots of my computer's really glitchy, just to say. Everyone
Yeah,
keeps freezing, so I hope I don't record that, but
I don't know. I can see you're freezing for me every so often, just a wee bit, and then you come back a little sort of double speedy.
oh well. I don't know. Hopefully, I'm sure
But
that, but
I
is
think
it
we're all
just
right.
We
me?
can
So
review it
hopefully the
later.
things
Yeah.
that you're both saying will be fine. So that'll be really
Yeah, I
good.
mean, from what I can see, it's just you that's slowing down a little bit. But
I don't
I
know
mean,
why.
Rob Simmons can work his magic, I'm sure, and be
Yeah.
great.
I'm sure it'll be fine. Brilliant. Okay, we're motoring through. Right, let's
Yeah.
carry on. So, Grainne, you've already said, but you haven't given us details. Can you tell us a little bit about how your teaching practice has changed since you started the course?
Yeah, so I suppose I started teaching when I was like 19. So I'm 3 now, so I've been teaching for like what seems like a while, but in the grand scheme of things, probably not. But yeah, so when I first started teaching, again, we've discussed this quite a lot actually in the course, is that what you tend to do is that you tend to kind of almost either mimic or kind of replicate what your teacher did when you were younger in lessons. So I was very adamant about, being improvisation, none of that, nothing like that at all. A lot of the lessons were very much just either, exam pieces, that kind of stuff. So I, again, was in kind of a field where I wasn't exactly sure of where I was going. I was just kind of going based off what I did or what I can remember. But now what the course has kind of given me is this kind of like independence and this kind of like style of thinking where I'm like, ooh, how could I do this really creatively rather than just going from what I did previously. And again, like a lot of the stuff I've kind of been teaching now is based off creative aspects of things. And as well as that, I'd often use kind of like props as well, and I found those to be so useful, which are great. And there's been a storyline. There's it's gone. Some of the things that's come up has been just brilliant. From the teaching of like basically letting students have that kind of, if it's one lesson, to have that little bit of creativity, and they love it. And what I found is that like a lot of improvisation, a lot of those kind of stuff that I've implemented, if you had told me like when I was 19 that this is how you're going to teach now, I'd be like, what? I'd be shocked because it's so different from what I was doing. So yeah, so as an overall, it's been a massive change for me, and it's really just, again, the more I do it, the more I change my teaching, the more I find my own teaching style. Again, it's always going to be ever changing, but I found that it's given me more confidence in what I do, and it's also seeing students enjoy playing pieces that they want to do, as well as other kind of stuff of technique and things like that, is really important. And that's something that I was always missing out on when I was younger. I felt like sometimes I would bring in pieces to my teacher and I'd be like, oh, I really want to try this. I'd be like, no, not today. But so being able to teach as a teacher myself, what I have found is that I have basically implemented both the students having more kind of choice, creativity, and everything. And again, all influenced through this course give me that confidence to do that, and reading about different teachers doing it, different articles, and hearing different people and hearing their different stories. Again, from going back to that mentor group from what everybody else is doing as well. So massive change.
It's really inspiring. Can I have some piano lessons?
Yeah.
Sounds great.
It's so nice.
Absolutely.
It's so nice to hear that you're experimenting with creativity, because it's the one area that I find teachers lack confidence and always know that it's going to help their teaching but aren't quite sure where to start. So it's fantastic that you've really gone for it and you've had positive results.
Yeah,
really,
massive.
really good. Well done, you.
Yeah, bravo.
Well done for taking the plunge. How about you, Kay?
Well, as you will know through my String Babies program, creativity is right at the centre of this. You may not know much about it, Andrew, but I can have another conversation with you about.
Well, do you know what?
Okay.
I was a cellist for 10 years. It was my first instrument until I left school.
All right.
So I think I have vague memories of something, but yeah, it didn't take the saxophone one out, but still.
All right. Well, I know it's alive and well in Scotland. But anyway, yeah, I mean, so creative thinking is not alien to me. Just to how it's impacted my teaching, it's helped me to understand myself as a teacher, and particularly the techniques that I use. I've always thought I was an intuitive teacher, and I thought, well, I was really intrigued by a lot of the articles that we were sent to read, and especially, books by Susan Hallam, and I'd read through them, and I thought there's an actual name for this particular technique of teaching. And it was really wonderful in the last assignment where we had to analyse our lessons to be able to look very much more closely at what we did in the lesson we had to record, and to reflect on it and to understand for myself more of what the technique was that I had employed, but I'd always done it naturally, if you see what I mean. And that's been very, very useful, because when I go approach a pupil now, I think more proactively, if that makes sense, about what I need to do to help that student, what's going to help them more, rather than just wing my way in an intuitive fashion. I'm thinking a little bit more logically about what might actually help them in that situation. It's really surprising how it's impacted my teaching. Just to give you an example, and I think this is quite an easy example. One of the techniques that I named in my current dissertation was the I do, we do, you do technique. And I've been consciously using that all this week in demonstrating. I was saying to my pupil, rather than expecting them necessarily to do it, let me do it first for you, then we'll do it together, and then there you go. And that really shows a shift in my own approach and my own teaching. So yeah, it's been great.
Just thinking about Kay, when we went through all the different teaching strategies and things like that, what did you find that you used the most when you did that lesson breakdown, and were there any particular strategies that you were using an awful lot, and others less so? Were there any sort of surprises when you actually really went into the nitty-gritty of that lesson? Was there anything that sort of stood out, or was it actually what you expected to find?
Yes. Well, the first thing that stood out, which is not in the essay, was the time fillers I put in. So, it's like, as I'm gathering my thoughts, that was quite embarrassing, actually. In terms of strategies, gosh, there was so much. I think oh goodness, now you've got me. There's so much I'm trying to reflect back on. Let's think. I think the one I've just mentioned about my demonstrating and then playing together with my student, and also the strategy, which Susan Helen calls reduction of degrees of freedom, breaking a task down into its tiny component parts. To be absolutely honest, I've taught that way for years. And I thought that most teachers would do that, but I'm not sure that they do, if I'm honest. And that's, I think, one of the reasons why I developed String Babies, was to break things down into their tiny component parts to, shall we say, simplify a task. And yeah, that's I do that an awful lot of the time in my teaching, and I think it came out in the lesson, but it certainly comes out a lot of the time when I teach.
Yeah.
I love that one too. I love that little moment where you kind of play together and then they go off on their own. It's a really fun one. It's kind of,
I've watched it.
well, no, just or in my own practice as well. It's something
Yeah.
that I do quite a lot, and it's kind of great. Just that it keeps almost, it does what maybe 5 sentences of chat would do, but just in that very practical, and it's kind of a wee shared experience. It's really lovely. It's really nice.
Great. We've just got one question left.
I think Helen's frozen.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Sorry,
I was
just
gonna
lost you
say,
for a second there, Helen.
no, it's quite frustrating. I don't know. I mean, I think my internet connection is fine. It's,
Don't worry, the
I'll
bookcase
edit
looks
it out.
fabulous.
It's fine. That's that's the main feature. I'll just should we do the last question, and then if there's anything else
Yeah.
people want to know about. So okay, so actually this question is quite similar in a way to the last one, but perhaps it's a little bit thinking a bit more long term now. So thinking about perhaps long term habits. Is there anything, or can you tell us about anything that you've
Okay.
learned
So
from your studies that are going to help you to continue growing as a teacher in the future throughout your career?
can I be annoying, Helen? Do you want to just repeat that question because you just froze for a bit in the middle of
Yeah.
it? Just if we need the whole question.
Okay. So how will the things you've learned
Thanks. When we frozen again.
how will the things you've learned from your studies help you continue growing as a teacher throughout your career?
Well, I would say for myself, the biggest life lesson is that you're never too old.
Mm.
You know, I'm in my early 60s now. I hope I don't look like I'm in my early 60s.
Definitely not.
And, you know, you never stop learning. And I didn't realize the degree to which there was still so much to learn. I must admit, I wish the MA was a bit longer than 2 years. Because I said to them, I'd love
You
to
might not be
carry
saying that in
this.
another year's time, Kate.
I might not be. I might be on my knees by the end of it all. But you know, I've just loved learning again, and it's really given me you know a new lease of life. It's been very joyful,
Mm.
joyful actually, to be honest. Learning new things, and also, you know, you don't become stagnant. I think that's yeah, I don't think I would be serving any student who comes to me if I wasn't investing in myself as a teacher.
Mm.
Now, I'm going to be absolutely honest. One of the ways I, you know, besides going to occasional ESTA events and string babies, that I looked on as continual professional development, was to be an adjudicator. And I've adjudicated for many years, but I love it because I get to encounter teachers I've never met before, students I've never met before. You learn an awful lot just from watching other people play, and you can learn about other people's teaching as it comes through in the students, and I've enjoyed that. But for me to then be able to spend time looking at academic writings and videos and philosophies on teaching, it's really sort of should we say, inspired me to think about my own and how I can continue to improve. So I think I'll be feeding off this course for many years to come, if I live that long.
I'm sure
I'm
you
really
will.
excited to see what you'll do in the MA then, Kate, because, you know, as we go on, we've got the dissertation project where really you are generating some sort of new insight and nuance onto a topic that you're passionate about. So I can't wait to see what you come up with in
No,
that for your dissertation. It's going to be really exciting. It'll be great.
Yeah.
Great. And how
How about yourself, Grainne, as you're kind of looking at the kind of trajectory from the kind of more initial stages of the career?
Yeah, I mean, like it's definitely it's gonna set me off on the right path, I think. The kind of PG cert. And obviously because we're still kind of like halfway through it at this stage. But you know, I suppose kind of give me more of a grounding, especially with the fact that I've taken on so many new concepts and so many new aspects of teaching, like not only instrumental but like pre-instrumental classes and theory classes and group keyboard classes. So I took a lot on this year on top of the course. But so it's been a real kind of benefit to kind of have this almost like background of knowing other teachers, and also as well as that I've found that, like, you know, anything I've learned from the course already is being able to implement it into loads of different areas in music already. And what's also inspired me is the fact that like there is the MA, and like once I found like the amount of material and all the kind of new concepts, because I'm implementing them so quickly, like as in I'll definitely be like still using and referencing different aspects a good few years after this course. But what's also nice is to know that there is that master's as well, so I'd be kind of having like, okay, once I feel like I'm almost like a little bit stagnant, or I feel like I need to kind of reboost again, there is that master's to kind of almost look forward to, having done the PGCert and having known everybody as well. But overall, it's given me just this kind of real confidence in my own career, and it's kind of really inspired me to just kind of keep going and to find something that I'm so passionate about so young. I feel like I'm very lucky in some aspect, and the course has definitely kind of helped me with that quite a lot. And yeah, I really kind of just feel inspired by it to kind of keep going. And the course has given me that real big confidence boost that I really, really needed at the time. And yeah, going forward now, I'm just kind of so excited to implement it, and it really has been so impactful to me anyway.
Fabulous.
Wow. That's really nice. It's really nice to just sit back, isn't it, Andrew, actually, and just think all the work's worth it.
I was going to say, we put in all this work to make these things happen. We're like, yes, it's great. It really is.
Really nice. Yeah. So nice to hear from you both. Brilliant. Is there anything, we can stop recording in a moment, but is there anything?
I suppose in the same way things,
like
as digital teachers, sometimes, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Well, I was just saying, we were saying for these guys, in private practice or popping in and out of schools, they're kind of on their own. You can feel like you're on your own a wee bit, but it kind of can be the same for Helen and I a wee bit. Kind of sat at our laptops, kind of making these courses happen. But to chat to you guys and hear how much you're taking from it and how much you're moving forward from it, it's made my day. Definitely, it's been lovely. So thank you. It's awesome.
Thank you.
No, you're
You.
very welcome.
Is
Very
there
welcome.
anything either of you thinks you'd like to add, or anything you like anticipated saying before this call that you'd like to say? I mean, I think you've both done brilliantly. I don't think there is anything missing, but is there anything you think, I think a teacher would love to hear that, or anything actually that you've struggled with but you've overcome, or anything like that, those sorts of snippets? Is there anything you want to say? Please don't feel like obliged.
Well, I
but
think I touched on a thing that would have nearly turned me off, which was just the thought that, I'm way too experienced. This is probably just, not stuff that's going to help me in any way, or serve me. But actually, it is serving me in the ways I've already mentioned, giving me my passion and enthusiasm back. Not everybody obviously is going to have a story like mine, but I think when you do the same thing day in, day out in isolation for years, it's easier to become stale. And it's been great. It actually has been great. And I've felt, that I've been treated, particularly with everybody I've encountered, with immense respect. And that has meant a lot. And not just respect, but support and kindness and encouragement. So that's that's great, and it's made it for me a safe environment. Because one of the thoughts that went through me, I thought, it's a bit of, I don't know if it's a bit of imposter syndrome when these tutors, who are, I've known personally in the profession for some years, see the, my academic writing or the quality of my work, they're going to realize I'm a fraud.
Okay, don't be so silly.
I know, but
that's a natural feeling though, isn't it?
But I thought it'd go through.
Nothing could be further from the truth. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
But there is this kind of vulnerability about going back to these things, isn't there? We're kind of putting ourselves in a slightly vulnerable position. But I think one of the strengths I've noticed, as I've been kind of, working on this first year with the masters and seeing all the students come in, is that yes, it's a safe space, but also it's a course that seems to manage to meet the students where they're at in their own career. Within, whether it's a flexibility or an openness or probably a bit of both, it does seem to kind of draw people in and draw people together in a way that I
Yeah,
think is really, really effective. So
yeah,
it's really great to hear
absolutely.
that.
And I would say to any colleagues of mine, and especially those, you know, of my age or a little less, is you're just not too old to learn.
Mm.
You know, you can teach old dogs new tricks.
Well, we
Brilliant.
had an inquiry asking whether 47 or 48 was too old. So we were like, "Oh, that's me in 5." So, like, surely not.
Yeah.
I've just thought of something actually. Groinne, could you say anything about the summer school? Because
Yeah.
that's going to be
Yeah,
quite
that's a great idea.
compulsory. So if there's anything like your experience of summer school last year, that would be really interesting for people to know.
Mm.
Yeah, like obviously I kind of did the reverse of what most people do, is that I went to the course, summer course kind of like first, and then obviously I'm doing the course now. But oh my God, yeah, that was actually so cool because all having come from college, it was like going back to because I'd taken a year out, so by the time I'd come back, it was really nice just being like a kind of musical kind of like environment as such. And I getting to meet everybody in person first was really cool actually, because that is the one thing I suppose, is that everybody meets online, but then you have the summer course to look forward to if you do the course first, that you get to meet everybody in person later. But I found the summer course so cool, because I suppose what allowed me to do is both for the pre-instrumental class that I was doing, there was a lot of like dalcros and that kind of stuff that I hadn't really been introduced to that often at all. So I got to have full on like experience of that, which was amazing. And even meeting with some of the mentors as well, it was so cool to talk to them. And I found that like as in it was really well run, it was very kind of structured, but also it was kind of laid back as well. And it was really cool to talk to people who had done the course already, because the majority of them had done it, and they really gave me an insight as to what it was like as well. Um so I really found the summer course amazing. Chichester in itself is such a beautiful place. And I got to kind of do a bit of exploration there. I kind of got to do little kind of sessions and everything. There was like a company playing, and then we got like a one-on-one. Myself and another piano teacher got a one-on-one session with I think Enda. I think who it was a while ago now. One, yeah, that's yeah. Anyway, so yeah, he was one of the mentors, and some of the tips he gave us during that summer like school, I still use. I implemented it straight away. And they were just like perfect things. Like I think it was one of them was getting like the handshake for the piano from your knee. And it's so simple, but my God, it's so effective. So, and that's like the perfect example of what I was saying previously, is that like everything on the course is concise. It's not like reams and reams of information, but the information that's given is it's very concise and it's so impactful. And that I found from the summer course as well. Anything I learned, I was able to implement straight away. And it really like got me on the right start for the course. It was awesome, and the weather was really good too. So
It was great, wasn't it?
yeah, it's
Yeah.
so fun.
Yeah, I still remember Sarah's Dalcroze classes. I think about those in
Yeah.
ways that I hadn't kind of thought about, sort of movement in teaching in a way. I've incorporated elements of that, and I found it really effective. Especially, I went back to working with school age kids for the first time in years,
Yeah.
a specialist music school, and actually for them the kind of movement stuff has been great. It's been really fun. So yeah, I kind of had that experience. It's great.
Yeah, really, really good.